Oh, the drama. So much drama. And I have so many thoughts. Hi, my name's Gabriella and I like talking about musicals. Well, not just musicals, lots of other things as well. But this video is mainly on musicals, or rather drama to do with musicals. It's like come up a bit recently, and so naturally, I thought I'd talk about it. Might not be all that recently depending on when I actually put this video up, but like, it's recently now, so. And that drama is stunt casting. Yay. And it's like a really tricky topic as well, because like there's a lot of negatives, but also there's some like really reasonable, valid, like proper like actual reasons that it happens, and that's kind of hard to discount. So yeah, if there weren't those reasons in the first place, I don't think it would be a thing. And so yeah, I kind of have a lot of thoughts, but I'm not like actually in there in any of these situations. Have never been in one of these situations myself, so I can't speak like, yes, this is what happens, this is how it works. But yeah, I've spoken to people, I know people, and I don't know, I'm just gonna try real hard to like just have a nice discussion. That's all I want it to be, a nice discussion. So I think the first thing that comes to mind when people speak of stunt casting is that it's taking away from other performers. You've got a big celebrity who, you know, they've got a lot of other work, they do other things, they have lots of other jobs. They come in and they're basically taking away a job from someone who is trained specifically for this. And whether that's, you know, taking away an opportunity for someone, you know, a star on the rise to sort of like have their big breakthrough, or whether it's just stopping another like West End performer or like Broadway performer from getting another job because they're so hard to come by. Like, it's such a competitive industry, and literally like someone being stunt cast might take away someone's only job that year, like the only source of income that they've had that year. I know, Christy Altimer, she was like, I didn't work for like, what was it, 3 years or something before she got Anastasia. She didn't have any acting work. Like, say she lost out Anastasia to a stunt cast, she would still not be employed. That was not only her big breakthrough, but also like making sure she had work. Like, because they did start stunt casting in Anastasia at the end. They got Cody Simpson in, who was, I don't know, he's big in America. But if they'd done that for the actual role of Anastasia, and not only does it take away jobs from other people, it can really overshadow other members of the cast. A lot of times I've seen it where the stunt cast role has been not one of the lead roles, and yet on all the advertising you have that sort of like supporting role plastered everywhere. I think Chicago's quite a good example. Quite often they'll like stunt cast, or not even just stunt, but just a big name in the role of Billy Flynn. I mean, I guess Billy Flynn's sort of like the lead male, but at the same time is not a leading role. The leading roles are Roxy and Velma, and they should be the ones, you know, on all the advertising. I think even Mama Morton's got a bigger role than Billy Flynn, I think. I have not seen Chicago in a while, please don't like blast me for this. But like when you have, you know, the supporting role sort of like billed above the leading roles, that just feels a bit wrong to me. Also, if the announcements are made on the same day, like if you've got a new lead at the same time that you've got someone being stunt cast in another role, all the attention goes to the stunt cast, and it just takes away from like this person. It's like their big moment, like being announced into this lead role, and just all of the attention goes, like positive or negative, to be honest, to be fair. A lot of the time, like it might just be like the people that I follow, like that I'm surrounded by, but when stunt casting gets announced, it tends to be more of a backlash response that I've seen recently. Well, I guess it depends on the situation, circumstance, but like it just takes away from, like, you've just got a lead role in a West End or Broadway show and no one cares because they're too busy discussing like the stunt thing. I mean, people will, like, that's very like broad, but like it should be their big moment and it's just being completely overshadowed. And I mean, that's sort of like a superficial thing, but I've also seen, okay, so like one specific event that I remember was when Nick Jonas was in Les Mis, and I very definitely remember seeing an article where there were all these rumours about who he was dating and everything, and they're like, is it Lucy Jones, is it Sam Barks? And for some reason they were like pitting them against each other. Like, A, why do that? But also, like, they had this really, I still remember, like, they had this really lovely, like, glam photo of Lucy, like, I think not at work, like at some event or something, and then Sam Barks, who was playing Eponine, you know, most of the time covered in mud and in like rags and like oversized clothing that doesn't fit, and generally looking quite like grim, because, you know, she's like a starving like child on the streets, like that's what she's playing. They found this like photo of her, and they were basically just making out that like, oh well, if he's not with Lucy then he's stupid, like who's this like tramp. So like, I love Sam Barks, and like they were just like trashing her just because Nick Jonas was in this show. Like, if he hadn't been in this show, there wouldn't have been all of this, like, it was probably some trashy newspaper anyway, like Daily Mail or something, but like the fact that like mainstream media then gets a hold of this, and then they just start trashing some of the like very, very good talented performers just on like looks or like things that they think they can get drama out of. And like, it's literally like dragging other people in the show literally for no other reason other than the fact that there's a big mainstream celebrity in there, and they're like, what gossip can we cook up? And like, that's potentially damaging to like the other performers. And, you know, sometimes they're just not as great. I think this is more for musical theatre. Like, I think straight theatre, it's harder to get stunt casting, because I think musical theatre, if you get a film or TV actor in, that's still stunt casting most of the time, because most of the time they haven't really done musical theatre and like trained for it before. But with theatre, if you get in an actor from like film or TV, that's kind of normal. Like Sir Ian McKellen is not a stunt cast because he does loads of theatre. That's just the point where you're getting in someone very talented to do something that they will be able to do in their very talented way. However, musical theatre can be very different because of the singing and dancing elements, and when you have to do not just like, because acting is very strenuous, like 8 shows a week acting is a lot. When you add in singing and dancing and having to make sure that your voice has to be good for acting, but if you've got to be belting your face off 8 shows a week, as well as dancing, you've got to look after yourself so well, and your body has to be physically prepared for that. And I think a lot of the time the celebrities aren't, like the people that get stunt cast maybe aren't up to that or ready to that. Like, I think Miranda Hart, when she was in Annie, like she bowed out, like she took a few, like 3 weeks out I think, and she said, yeah, my body just wasn't, I couldn't handle it. And it affects the quality of the performance, and also then you're just letting down disappointed people who like had booked to see them because they weren't not necessarily up to the role but up to the demands of the show and like live musical theatre. And so yeah, if you're not great because you're not up to the demands of the show, then you're letting people down. If you're not up to the demands of the show and you have to step out, then you're disappointing people by not being there. Like, people within the theatre community know that quite often. And I mean, even like people outside the community, like a lot of the time, like my parents, they're like, they see a fair amount of theatre, but they're not like, they don't love theatre like I do. And they're like, oh well, yeah, we don't really want to see that show at the moment because that celebrity's in it and we don't think they'll be very good because, like, you know, they're a celebrity and not like a musical theatre performer. And like, they're just sort of like casual theatre goers. As well as attracting people to the show, stunt casting can also drive people away. And also not just because they're worried about how good they'll be, but I've seen people, especially with this latest thing about Waitress, I've seen a lot of people saying they're not going to go until after the stunt cast person has left because they want to support like the actual performers. And that's a really bad way of saying it. Like, I'm sure Ashley Roberts is a performer. But yeah, it's just a real balancing act. However, despite all this negative sort of stuff I've been saying, there are good sides. So I think you tend to find that stunt casting is usually done either when shows are struggling, or there's like uncertainty on how a new show will do, so they get in someone, or if it's like a long running show and they want to, like, you know, keep it that way, or make sure that if they go on tour with the show, like, they're selling the seats. Because like, I've visited touring productions of shows quite a few times, and I got the chance to sort of like be in a touring production, like a proper professional one, and they don't always sell incredibly well, and sometimes you need that name to sell it. And often it can work. Like, I went to see Guys and Dolls mainly because Rebel Wilson was in it. Like, I kind of wanted to see Guys and Dolls. I was like, yeah, that's a musical, but I was like, at the same time, I wasn't like, I need to see Guys and Dolls with a burning passion. And then Rebel Wilson was in it, and I was like, you know what, maybe I do need to see it with a burning passion. Like, I would have been happy to see it before, I just probably wouldn't have gotten myself organised in time to see it. But because she was in it, I made sure I was organised enough to see it. And then immediately lost the ticket she signed on the way back to the car, and I'm still gutted. So it does help shows out, it helps keep them running so more people can see it, and also so that all the other people working on the show still have jobs. Yes, my arguments earlier that, you know, other people could be missing out on like the chance to break into the industry, like break into like leading roles, or like maintain a like source of income. While they're being in this role, they're keeping an entire company of people in a job. Like, maybe not if it's a wildly successful show, but then you don't tend to see wildly successful shows stunt casting so much. Like, I don't know the last celebrity that was in Book of Mormon. They don't need it. They had a little bit of a stunt cast in Phantom, I think. I don't know, but that show's been going on for donkey's years, so... And I mean, they're kind of stunt casting Les Mis for the Gielgud run, but not stunt casting it, they're just getting an all-star cast, which is not the same. They're two different things. And I'll go back to that, but just to quickly wrap up my list of like why it's good. Stunt casting, it's also free promotion. Often mainstream media will cover it, and like the Nick Jonas one was a bad example of that, but also it's an example of how mainstream media will pick up stories on the show just because the celebrity's in it, and they wouldn't do that normally probably. Also, celebrity in a show, they're going to want to promote what they're in, they're going to want people to come see them. Like, also doing 8 shows a week and not being, and if you're active on social media and doing 8 shows a week, there is no way in hell that you are not plastering that all over social media if you're like active enough to plaster things all over social media. Like, no way. So that's a lot of free promotion. And you know, some stunt casts are actually quite good, or like just as good as any other person. Like, I think you could consider Kat McPhee as a bit of stunt cast. Like, I think before Waitress, like, yeah, she did Waitress on Broadway, but I think before she did that, she had done like American Idol or whatever it's called, and then she did Smash, and I think she'd done some other things, but I think Waitress was her I should have looked this up. But when she went into Waitress, I think it was a bit of a stunt cast. Definitely when she came over here, everyone was saying, oh, stunt cast, stunt cast, stunt cast, which like she had done Waitress before, so it like wasn't completely a stunt cast, but also like she went from singing to then TV singing. It was like a slow progression. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's like a complete stunt cast, but basically if you're going into a lead Broadway role or West End role and that's your first role doing live shows, I'm gonna say that's sort of like a stunt cast if you haven't like trained for it specifically. It's really hard to sort of like come up with a concrete classification because every single instance is so different. But essentially, the point I was trying to make was Kat McPhee, if you count her as a stunt cast, she is absolutely incredible and every bit deserves that role. And I think that sort of like makes up, not like my criteria, because obviously like I'm not casting anyone, I can't have criteria, but like I think when it's like acceptable to have stunt casting is either when they're the best person for the job, which Kat McPhee deserves that, and yeah, sure, go for it, or when the show is struggling and that person, like, the level doesn't drop from any of the other cast members, like they're on par with the rest of the cast, like they can do that show, they are capable of it, which yes, Kat McPhee 100%, of course she is. But I've also seen people who, when they came on stage, it felt like a little bit of a drop, honestly. I think with Waitress specifically, like obviously I have no idea what the actual details are behind it, so I can't speculate wildly on that. I had heard that initially at the beginning, I don't think Laura Baldwin's contract had been like a very long one. I heard someone say, no idea if it's true or not, I just heard someone say that, oh, she had quite a short contract to start with and they hoped they extended it. So possibly what happened was she had a short contract, Ashley Roberts got cast afterwards, and then they were like, Laura, you've done so well, you've done amazing, we want you to come back after that. I would like to hope that's what happened. Having also heard rumours that another cast member has resigned over it, I don't think that's the case. But you can hope. Either way, I just think specifically with Waitress, there are other steps that could have been taken first. Like, the price of their seats is just incredible. I paid £50 for an upper circle restricted view seat, and that was like the best I could get. I don't like being that high up or that far away. I would have preferred to be somewhere closer, and I do in most other shows pay to be closer, but I could not afford it. I like other shows for 50 quid, I can be closer, and I feel like it's driving audiences away. When I was there were a lot of other empty seats in the upper circle, and if there were empty seats in the upper circle, in the cheap seats, I dread to think what it was like lower down. Like, I've heard other people going who have said there were so many empty seats. Like, honestly, lower the prices, it will fill up so much more. I mean, obviously I'm not like a marketing person, I don't know that that's guaranteed to happen, but I would have gone a lot sooner than I did, and I also would have sat further forward and like gotten a better seat if it was cheaper, and I probably would have already gone again, but right now I can't even like consider it because it's just too expensive. I don't want to pay for like, that view was okay, I was the front row of the upper circle and there was like a bar in the way. That is like the absolute furthest I would want to be, like any further away. I felt disjointed from the action as it was. I could not go for like a worse seat than that, and I can't afford 50 quid again, so lower the prices. And I mean, everyone's like, oh well, you can't just lower prices, but I mean, there are other areas that they could spend less on. Like, I got through the mail in an envelope addressed to me, I then took out a like folding glossy flyer. I'd already seen the show, why are they sending me more propaganda? Like, they're hoping to get even more money out of me. It's not going to happen. I couldn't afford to buy any. I brought a program and that was it. I wanted to buy more merch, couldn't afford it because the seats were too expensive. But like a folding glossy flyer, those things aren't cheap to print, and then to have one like actually individually mailed instead of just like going out and actually flyering people, that's expensive. I mean, not like super expensive, like can't afford it, but like take £2 off. Sure, that's not much, but like just take a couple of quid off each thing, and like the money they're spending on these flyers, take that off the price of the seats. Like, stop wasting money on flyers, because people look at the flyers, they'll go great, and then they'll look at the ticket price and they'll go, can't afford that. You've got plenty of other advertising going, cut the flyers and just lower the price of seats. And like, they already had a little bit of a stunt cast with Kat McPhee, and they're in this situation, so I don't see how more stunt casting is gonna help. I don't know what's going on, but I just think there were probably other options out there that they could have explored first before they went to even more stunt casting. And I think a better alternative to stunt casting is going back to what I said about Les Mis and an all-star cast. You could say it's stunt casting that the cast of Les Mis, when it's at the Gielgud, is going to be Alfie Boe, Michael Ball, Carrie Fletcher, I think Matt Lucas. Well, I'm just assuming it's Matt Lucas because, anyway, they've got a massive list of like some of the big names that have played the roles throughout the course of everything, and they're doing that to make sure that people come see the show even though it's not going to be the full version. So they've brought in the big names, but that's not stunt casting, because like people were complaining when Carrie was cast in Heathers that like it's stunt casting. No, it's not, because she is a musical theatre performer. Just because you have done well for yourself out of musical theatre does not mean that when you get cast in something that you're being stunt cast. At least in my view, that's not how it works. That's just being a big name. I would much prefer if they get in big names, like I think that's probably what they're doing with Michael Ball in Hairspray. They're getting in a big name to make sure it sells. And I would much rather they did that, because you know it's a Broadway West End performer that can handle it, they can do it. They are incredibly talented, that's why they're a big name. They're a big name because they are talented in musical theatre and they are going to be able to hold this show. So people go see it because of that. And then not only do people get drawn in because there's a big name that they know is good, but also then the other cast get to work and learn from someone that's so talented. And like the number of times you hear from other people being like, just being able to work with this person was a masterclass. Like, it helps the industry out because you get to work with other talented people and learn from them, and then the overall quality goes up. It's like Newsies, and then hey, your circulation might actually go up. Anyway, I'm going a bit demented right now. That was long. I think I've got across most of my points as cohesively as I could manage. I'm sorry that this is really long. I had a lot of thoughts. I've been filming this for half an hour now. Joys. I hope you kind of understood the points I was trying to get across. I definitely didn't want to like insult anyone or like make anyone feel bad. It can be a touchy topic. I don't know if that's just because everyone gets really mad about it, but like, yeah, I just didn't want anyone to get mad. So I hope I haven't made anyone mad from this video, but I just had some thoughts on it and wanted to get them out. So let me know if we share any of the same thoughts or if you've got different ones, and I'd love to discuss. And I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye!